I was right there, clutching Dad's cold hand in that quiet Ohio bedroom as he slipped away. The heart monitor flatlined, and my heart just shattered. I'd given up everything, my job, my nights, my whole life, to keep him comfortable, to see that spark in his eyes one more time. So how could my brother and sister, the ones I used to build forts with in the backyard, turn on me like that? I'm Sarah, and this is my story, real and raw, about love, sacrifice, and a family betrayal that broke me. I spent years caring for Dad, only for them to steal his house, his savings, everything he meant for me to have. Ever had someone you love turn your world upside down? Stay with me, because you won't believe what they did, and I'm telling it all, every painful piece. I'm Sarah, 42, stuck in a small Ohio town where the biggest event is the county fair. Life's been tough but manageable, at least until everything fell apart. Growing up, our house was loud with love, Dad flipping burgers on the grill, Mom humming old country tunes. She died when I was 15, breast cancer, and it broke us. Dad stepped up, working double shifts at the auto plant to keep me, my brother Mark, and sister Lisa fed. He wasn't big on words, but he'd leave notes in my lunchbox. Little things like, "You got this, kid." I stayed close to home, taking a job at the local diner, pouring coffee for truckers, because I couldn't bear leaving him. I passed up a chance to study in Columbus, thinking family was worth it. Mark and Lisa? They had other plans. Mark, 4 years older, was always chasing the next big thing. Real estate deals that never panned out. He'd roll into town maybe once a year, charming everyone, but leaving Dad with nothing but a handshake. Lisa, the baby at 38, moved to California, married some tech guy and barely called, sending Dad a Christmas card if we were lucky. I tried not to hold it against them, but it hurt, seeing Dad check his phone for messages that never came. Then came the day that changed everything. 3 years back, Dad started coughing, a dry hack that wouldn't quit. I dragged him to the doctor, expecting a prescription, not a death sentence. Lung cancer, stage IV, the kind that doesn't give you much time. I sat in that sterile office, the air thick with antiseptic, as Dad gripped my hand and said, "I'm not going anywhere yet, Sarah." But we both knew. I moved into his house, a little brick place with creaky floors and photos of us kids on the walls. I became his everything, nurse, cook, daughter. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to sort his pills, drive him to chemo, and mash up dinners he could barely eat. We'd sit on the porch some nights, him wrapped in a quilt, talking about the time he taught me to fish. Those moments were gold, but they cost me. My savings dried up, my friends stopped calling, and I was bone-tired, running on coffee and stubborn love. Dad noticed, always saying, "You're too good to me, kid." I'd just smile, because what else could I do? Mark and Lisa were ghosts. Mark sent a text every few months asking if Dad was still kicking, like it was a joke. Lisa mailed a get well card once, with a generic "thinking of you" that felt like a slap. I'd tell Dad they asked about him, lying to keep him happy, but he'd just shrug, saying, "You're the one who's here." I handled Dad's bills, too, stretching his pension to cover meds and utilities. The house wasn't fancy, but it was his pride, paid off with years of sweat. He'd talk about it sometimes, how he wanted me to keep it, maybe fix up the garden. I nodded, focused on getting him through another day, not thinking about wills or money. But I should have paid attention. Mark called once, out of the blue, asking about Dad's savings, his voice too smooth. Lisa texted, wondering if the house was still in good shape. I brushed it off, too worn out to see the red flags. I was so busy loving Dad, I didn't notice my siblings sharpening their knives, waiting for their chance to take it all. Dad's last months were like walking through a storm that wouldn't quit. His cancer had him fading fast, his strong hands now bony, his voice a whisper. The doctor said it was a matter of weeks, and I was barely holding it together. I moved his bed to the living room, right by the window where he could see the old maple tree he loved. Every day was the same grind, checking his oxygen tank, spooning him broth he'd push away, cleaning up when he got sick. I'd put on his favorite Hank Williams songs, and he'd try to hum, his eyes flickering with a bit of the old Dad. It was all I had left of him, those fleeting moments, but they kept me going. I was running on empty. My diner job long gone, my body aching like I'd been hit by a truck. The house smelled of medicine and damp quilts, but I didn't care. I just wanted Dad to feel safe, to know I was there. I didn't see the trouble brewing, didn't realize my own family was about to turn on me. Then Mark and Lisa showed up, like vultures smelling a chance. It was a cold November afternoon, Dad struggling to breathe, when Mark's pickup screeched into the driveway. He walked in with a pizza box, acting like he was saving the day, but his eyes were all over the house, like he was pricing it. Lisa flew in the next morning, her fancy coat out of place in our creaky home. Fake tears already rolling. I wanted to believe they'd come for Dad, that they finally got how little time we had. But it was off from the start. Mark hung around, asking about Dad's bank account, saying stuff like, "You keeping track of his cash, Sarah? Houses like this sell quick." Lisa was sneakier, sitting by Dad's bed, cooing, "We're here now, Daddy," but checking her phone when he coughed. They'd do small things, grab groceries or make coffee, but it was me changing his sheets, holding his hand through the pain, wiping his forehead at 3 a.m. Their act didn't fool me, but I was too worn out to call it out. I caught them whispering in the kitchen one night, Mark saying something about getting it sorted before it's too late. My gut twisted, but I told myself I was paranoid. Things got worse in December when Dad had a good day, one of those rare moments where he sounded like himself. We were alone, the room dim with winter light, and he grabbed my hand, his grip surprisingly strong. "Sarah," he said, his voice low. "I fixed things a while back. My will's with Thompson, the lawyer, the house, my savings, your mom's rings. They're for you. You've been my rock." My eyes stung, not because of the stuff, but because he trusted me. I promised I'd keep the house. Maybe plant roses like Mom used to. He smiled, peaceful, like he could let go. But when I looked up, Lisa was in the doorway, her face tight. "What's this about a will?" she asked, her voice sharp. I froze, mumbling it was just talk, but her eyes locked on mine, cold as ice. I should have known then, should have seen the wheels turning. After that, Mark and Lisa got bolder. Mark started poking around Dad's desk, pulling out bank statements, claiming he was helping with bills. I caught him once, papers spread out, and snapped, "What are you doing?" He just laughed, saying, "Chill, Sarah, I'm just curious." Lisa was worse, hovering around Dad when I stepped out, her voice all sweet, asking him about old promises. One day, I walked in and heard her say, "You sure Sarah's handling everything right, Daddy?" I lost it, yelling, "Get away from him!" She backed off, smirking, but Dad was too weak to notice. They were everywhere now, their questions sharper, their glances heavier. I found them in the garage one night, going through Dad's toolbox, muttering about what's worth keeping. I stormed over, my voice shaking. "You're not taking his stuff. He's still here." Mark shoved past me, saying, "Don't act like you own him." Lisa just stared, her silence louder than words. I was fighting to keep Dad alive, but they were already carving up his life. I didn't know it yet, but they were setting me up. Their greed burning hotter than I could have imagined. Dad passed on a gray January morning, snow piling up outside our Ohio home. I held his hand, so thin it felt like paper, as his breathing stopped. The heart monitor's whine cut off, and I just sat there, tears soaking my shirt, whispering, "I'm sorry, Dad," like I'd let him down. I'd given him every piece of me, every sleepless night, to make sure he wasn't alone. The house was too quiet without his Hank Williams records, the maple tree outside standing like a gravestone. The funeral came fast, a small service in town. Mark and Lisa showed up, playing the part of grieving kids for the neighbors. Mark's suit was crisp, his eyes scanning the crowd like he was at a business deal. Lisa dabbed her eyes with a tissue, but I saw her check her watch. I was too numb to care, my heart buried with Dad's flannel shirts and old fishing rods. I thought the worst was over, that I could hold on to his wishes, the house, his love. I was dead wrong. A few days later, I dragged myself to Mr. Thompson's office, Dad's lawyer, expecting to hear the will he'd promised me. The room was stuffy, papers stacked high, and Thompson's face was all wrong, like he'd eaten something sour. He slid a document over, saying, "This is the new will, Sarah. Signed 2 weeks before your dad passed." New. My hands shook as I read it. The house, his savings, Mom's rings, every last thing went to Mark and Lisa. I got nothing, not even the photo album Dad kept by his bed. I choked out, "This ain't right. Dad told me the house was mine. He said it." Thompson rubbed his neck, voice low. "Your sister dropped this off. Said your dad signed it in the hospital. The signature's his, but it's shaky. I don't know, Sarah." My head spun. Dad could barely lift a spoon those last weeks, let alone sign papers. It hit me like a freight train. Mark and Lisa had done this, tricked him when he was doped up on pain meds, maybe forged it outright. They didn't just walk away from him, they stole the one thing he wanted me to have. I tore out of there, driving to the motel where Mark and Lisa were staying, my heart pounding so hard I could barely see. They were in the diner next door, sipping coffee, laughing like they'd won the lottery. I slammed the will on their table, my voice cracking. "You did this. You stole Dad's will, his house, everything. How could you? Mark leaned back, smirking, his voice smooth as oil. Dad wanted us to have it, Sarah. You were always in his ear, acting like you were the only one who mattered. Lisa chimed in, her eyes glinting. You're just mad you didn't get your way. Maybe you pushed him too hard. I saw red, screaming. Pushed him? I was there every damn day. I cleaned his vomit, held him when he cried. You weren't even in the same state. Mark stood, looming over me. Take it to court then. Oh, wait, you're broke. Lisa laughed, sharp and mean. Should have played nicer, Sarah. I wanted to hit them, to make them feel half the pain they'd caused, but the waitress pulled me away, saying I was causing a scene. They walked off, their laughter burning in my ears, leaving me sobbing in the parking lot. I went back to Thompson, begging for a way to fight. But the truth was a gut punch. The will's signature looked like Dad's, but it was scrawled, not his steady hand. Contesting it would take thousands I didn't have, and Mark and Lisa were already spending Dad's money. They'd planned it, waiting until Dad was too weak to think, slipping in their lies when I was distracted. I sat in the house that night, soon to be Mark's, surrounded by Dad's things. His coffee mug, his worn Bible. They'd taken more than money. They'd taken my place in his story. I was left with nothing but hurt, my trust in family shattered by their cold, calculated greed. But something in me wasn't done fighting. Not yet. After that diner showdown, my life unraveled like a cheap sweater. Mark moved fast, selling Dad's house before I could blink, realtors tramping through the place where I'd held Dad's hand. Lisa was already back in California, posting selfies with Mom's rings, each photo a fresh cut. They didn't just take Dad's stuff, they rubbed it in. Mark texting me, good luck with your little pity party. I had to clear out, hauling my things to a dingy Ohio apartment, the kind with thin walls and a leaky sink. Every night, I'd sit on a sagging couch, staring at Dad's old coffee mug, the only thing I'd saved. I kept seeing his face, hearing him say I was his rock, and it killed me, thinking I'd let him down. The betrayal wasn't just the money. It was Mark and Lisa stealing my place in Dad's heart, twisting my love for him into their gain. I stopped eating, barely slept, my days a blur of anger and shame, wondering how I'd been so blind to their greed. But something in me refused to break completely. I found a flyer for a support group at the community center, and one rainy evening, I went. Sitting in that circle, hearing folks talk about their own family messes, I didn't feel so alone. A guy named Eddie, who'd lost his farm to a shady cousin, told me, "You gave your dad your best. That's what counts." It stuck with me. I started scribbling in a notebook, writing letters to Dad I'd never send, pouring out the hurt. A counselor at the center helped me see I wasn't the fool. Mark and Lisa were, choosing cash over love. I got a job cleaning houses, hard work but honest, and it gave me a start. The pain's still there, like a bruise that won't fade, but I'm building something new, something they can't touch. Dad's love is what keeps me going, stronger than any house or ring. I carry him in the way I smile at strangers, the way I keep going. My story's about getting kicked down by family and standing up anyway. Ever been betrayed by someone you'd have died for? How'd you keep going? Tell me below because we're tougher than the worst they can do.